First off, man, it's super nice to meet you. I found you on Twitter. I love the Bengals this year, and I've been following you, and you do amazing breakdowns. What do you think about this season so far? Were you expecting for the Bengals to make it this far? That's the first question.
Oh, no. I was thinking this would be one of those fun, like, now that there's 17 games, you can't say a fun 8-8 year. So 9-8, 8-9 type year where you're like, okay, next year this team's going to be great. They just need an offensive line, and well, they still need that. But it seems like everybody's ahead of schedule. Jamar Chase is where you think he would be in year 2. Joe Burrow is where you think he would be maybe next year, after this year was kind of recovery from the ACL. It's just everything kind of sped up, and now here they are in the AFC Championship. And no, never saw this coming from this year.
Yeah, man. So you write for All Bengals on Sports Illustrated, if that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's awesome. First off, that's how I actually found you. This is what I have to say about the Bengals. I feel like there's just something special about this team, specifically because of Joe Burrow's revival. How long have you been a Bengals fan?
Oh, I mean, I'm 25, so about 25 years.
So you've been
Nice.
through the Carson Palmer and Andy Dalton era.
Yeah.
What's so different about this era that you guys are heading towards with Joe Burrow?
I mean, the first thing I think of is just when Andy Dalton was quarterback and he reared back to let one deep downfield, you kind of went, oh no. Now, when Joe Burrow's doing that, you're like, oh yeah, he's got somebody open. Carson Palmer, you kind of felt that too, but it was on and off with, he had injuries once in a while, and his play was up and down. So
Definitely.
that was a little bit more middling of he's rearing back. And sometimes you're like, oh, Ocho must be open. And then sometimes you're like, oh no, what's he doing?
When it comes to Joe Burrow and letting those balls go deep, take a moment to let that one sit. I apologize. That being said, when it comes to Joe Burrow and his confidence in throwing the football and the fans' confidence in Joe Burrow letting the ball go down deep, I really want to talk about the confidence, not just Joe Burrow's confidence, but the Bengals' confidence as a whole. Can you give me some kind of inside scoop of like how it is in that locker room, how the Bengals are feeling their morale right now? Do they feel like they could beat any team in the league right now, including the Chiefs?
Absolutely, especially because they beat the Chiefs earlier this season.
For sure.
Whether you want to say that's, well, it was a regular season game, whatever, they still have the confidence about it. I think the main story you can think of about the confidence is the kicker, Evan McPherson. Before he walks on, he takes a warm-up kick and he goes, looks like we're going to the AFC Championship.
that's great.
That's one of the coolest things ever said by a player.
Probably the coolest thing a kicker's ever done.
And that
Adam Vinatieri's up there, but yo, you might be right.
It's not always been that way. So, Mike, me and Joe right here, my name's Joel, his name is Joe. It's spelled the same way but pronounced differently. We're Jets fans. So we remember in 2009 when Shane Graham missed a bunch of chip shot field goals in the wild card round that cost the Bengals pretty much the game, even though Darrell locked up Chad. But Shane Graham, he was a pretty reliable kicker, and he was missing chip shot field goals in that entire game.
Wasn't just Shane Graham for that era either. If I remember that game, Carson Palmer, I think, threw a couple interceptions. Ocho gets locked down, and the offense just completely sputters. And it felt like that for every Marvin Lewis playoff appearance. It was, well, everybody's just going to play worse than they normally play because that's what happens. But then with Joe Burrow, and give some credit to Zach Taylor, he's the head coach. They come out and they're playing some of their best ball, especially on defense. That's a pretty good unit, but they've been rock solid this postseason.
And that's something that's interesting to me because walking into the season, having lost Mackenzie Alexander, William Jackson, and replacing them with Mike Hilton, Awuzie, and Eli Apple, nobody thought the secondary wouldn't drop off. At least I didn't think so at all. Who do you think has been the most surprising player in the secondary unit?
Ooh, surprising would probably be Eli Apple, right? Because he's been kind of bad everywhere, but he comes to Cincinnati and he breaks up the pass to get the game-winning interception. He's been honestly pretty good. That's been the most surprising thing. But I will say Awuzie, not this past week, he got kind of cooked by AJ Brown, but he did a good job the entire season. One of the better corners, and he's only like $7 million a year, so the market wasn't treating him like. You just look at the other corner that they paid, Trey Waynes. They give him $15 million, and Awuzie is playing up to that contract. So that's nice to have. That's a surprise. But Eli Apple, definitely the biggest surprise because I thought that would be a huge liability.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I watched the All-22 yesterday of the Titans and Bengals game, and a couple things stood out to me. One, DJ Reader, as you pointed out on your Twitter thread, I mean, he's been foddered amazing. You guys got him last year. He's been solid since then. But Jesse Bates has really stepped up his play in the playoffs. The interception he had on Tannehill, we just had a segment talking about Tannehill. I was like, I don't even know if that's on Tannehill because that's basically open. Jesse Bates just broke on the ball in a fantastic way. For somebody that's had such an up and down season, what's been the difference for his elite play in the playoffs so far versus the Raiders and now the Tennessee Titans?
You mentioned the pick. I mean, it's catching that interception. You think of earlier this season against the 49ers, he gets Garoppolo, he breaks on the ball, and it's a pick six to win the game, and he drops it. And then the 49ers go on to win the game. So now he's making the most of these opportunities. He's doing a good job of not letting anybody get behind him, breaking when making a little gamble when he knows he can, like on that AJ Brown, that was Julio that sat, but like that pick, he breaks on that and he knows he can because there's nobody going deep behind him. So he's doing a better job of picking his spots and then capitalizing on the opportunities.
And was his up and down play this year due to the Bengals asking him to do more than usual because they know he's such a great player?
I think they're a little bit more multiple this year on the back end. Last year, there were a lot of let Jesse Bates play single high, roam sideline to sideline. And this year, they want to try to play a little bit more confusing type things. Like, let's play some two high here, one high there. You're going to move down. You're going to cover this guy. You're going to play deep half, deep middle third. And when you have all those different responsibilities, where he's at his best is still where, like he got his interception playing post safety, middle field. And that's where he still has best. But the staff rightfully probably wants to play a little bit of everything. And yeah, when you do all that, and he's a little bit worse at some of that. So that's a little bit of the reason. I think some of it was contract talk and, you get in your own head about things like that and just confidence. And now he's got the confidence, he's playing well. And I mean, they'll need him against Kansas City.
Sure. Yeah, and if we could just go back to Joe Burrow for a second, I mean, coming out of the draft from LSU, everyone thought he'd be really good, right? He had that historic season there, the best college football season we've ever seen for a quarterback. His first year, he had some, really good moments, tears his ACL. Coming into year two, everyone expected him to play well, right? But I don't think anyone expected him to play to this level where we're having those talks of, is he in that tier with those Herberts and those Mahomes guys? Is that something you saw this year, his ability to level up, going from a good to great quarterback, now putting himself in that elite competition?
I think I thought that maybe, but it wouldn't have happened the same exact way. A little bit. So slow start is what I always thought. He's going to have a little bit of slow start. He's coming off the ACL injury. You want him by halfway through the year that he's no longer scared to step into throws and put his plant leg, the one that he tore his ACL and everything on, wasn't just his ACL, to step into things when the bullets are flying around him. There's guys falling down around his legs. By week 3 or 4, he was good with that. So from there, he was getting better and just getting more confident even. And just, he's so aggressive despite he doesn't have the Herbert, Mahomes, Allen arm to be late and throw a ball 60 yards, but he's so aggressive to put it, maybe he's 10 yards less, so 50 yards, and he'll still take the same shot. So I think that's cool to see. He's got the mindset of those type of guys, and I mean, he's playing up to it right now.
Yeah, and I believe he had the most 20-plus yard plays in the NFL this season, at least in the regular season. And when you look at the weapons they have with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, it's funny. You don't really think of a Bengals as a team that other teams will copy, but I definitely think they're going to be one of the teams when these new GMs come in, or even current GMs. We talk a lot about the Jets here. You need to surround your quarterback with weapons. We already have Elijah Moore and Corey Davis, but we're talking about getting a Calvin Ridley, going and drafting a Treylon Burks or Jamison Williams, at the 10th pick. So I do think it's interesting too that, we're seeing the Bengals as one of those first teams that we're just going to go and get our guy some weapons, because there was big debate in this past offseason. Were you a Sewell guy or were you a Chase guy?
When I watched him, I was actually a Sewell guy just because I thought he was like a rare body to be 350 pounds and moving so fluid and also explosive. And I thought Jamar Chase would be awesome. I had the same tier in my mind. I didn't think Jamar Chase would be this good, where it's I thought he was the best wide receiver in the class. I thought he was awesome, but I didn't think he would come into the league and catch break the Bengals record for most receiving yards. And that's doesn't sound, maybe not seem like at first glance, but that's a pretty storied group. You've got Chad Johnson, you've got Chris Collinsworth, Isaac Curtis, all these dudes, AJ Green,
no doubt,
can't forget him. So you got all these dudes, and he just put up the best season out of any of them have ever done in his rookie year. So I didn't see that coming, and I'll take egg on my face about it. But I mean, it's an awesome ride for me.
I feel like when we talk about the Bengals weapons, we talk about Jamar Chase because obviously what he's doing is so historic. You have to give him his respect. You have to give him his props. We talk about T. Higgins and how great of a number 2 option he is, whether he at one point was taking that mantle of that number 1 receiver, but you watch the games, you understand they're doubling Chase. Higgins is not a type of receiver you can leave on an island by himself. I feel like the guy that gets left out, for me at least, is Joe Mixon. I feel as if these last few weeks, we've seen Mixon take a step back in the offense where he's not as efficient as he had been early in the season in the run game, where it's been difficult for him to break over 60 yards these last few games, but we've seen him accept that role in the passing game where he really makes plays happen through the passing game. Do you feel as if, I guess my question is, at what point in the season did you feel the Bengals realized that their main attack should be to pass the ball down the field? I feel as if early in the season it was very let's give the ball to Joe Mixon, let's make things happen. At one point in the season, Joe Mixon statistically was top 3 in almost every single category. At what point in the season did it come to the Bengals' mind as if, all right, we need to be a pass first dominant offense?
It felt like that second Ravens game where Joe Burrow throws for over 500 yards.
Yep, no doubt.
It felt that was the game that felt like, oh, okay, now maybe that's just the Ravens, but then the next week they played the Chiefs and he throws for 400 plus yards and it's another great game, a win against a tough opponent. So that's where I got the thought process of, okay, this is no longer a team that's going to lean on Mixon. This is going to be a spread and let Joe Burrow do what he wants.
And even though you were a Sewell guy, I mean, for one, nobody could have predicted this type of season Jamar Chase is having. Anybody that predicted it, you could have won a lot of money if you bet on it. But Sewell is an all-pro caliber left tackle or tackle. He's had a phenomenal rookie season for the Detroit Lions, and I made a video back on it during draft season that the Bengals are really in a win-win situation in the draft. You either draft Sewell or you draft Chase, or maybe the Falcons don't draft Kyle Pitts, and now you get to have Pitts. So it was a really win-win situation. But looking at the Bengals offensive line, I just feel like that right side just needs a complete makeover. I mean, Hakeem Adeniji, I think that's his name. The way he performed versus the Titans was just embarrassing. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons, granted, he's a great player, was having his way. Do you think that now going to this weekend versus KC, they got Chris Jones, how is he going to fare when he's lined up to their side?
Oh man, it's gonna be tough. I don't think Adeniji's, if they can get him one-on-one with Adeniji, I don't think Adeniji wins very many of those reps. So you got to give him help from Hopkins or Prince or whoever. The right side would probably look a tiny bit better if Riley Reif didn't go on IR. Mm-hmm. That's a solid level player. He's not anybody that you're going to be game planning around, but he's a guy that comes in and he'll do his job. Now you have Isaiah Prince in there who actually played pretty well against the Titans, but he was not as well against the Raiders, and you're probably going to get up and down stuff from a young guy like that. So yeah, I think the right side needs overhauled. I think Hakeem Adeniji is probably not going to be the starting right guard next year.
So we know that you're a Bengals writer, but who do you got winning this game? Bias aside.
Oh man. It's tough. The Bengals won. I think they can win. If I'm going to pick, I go with the home team. I think the Chiefs, their experience, I don't know. I think it'll be close. I think they cover. I think it's going to be a tight game. It'll be fun. But I do think that the Chiefs, they've got the experience. They've got the coach. They've got everything that the Bengals want to be like next year. This could be the Chiefs team that lost to the Patriots on their way to the Super Bowl. And then next year is the season that they go and they try to take their first Super Bowl.
Yeah, the one thing that the Bengals at least have got going to them, we're going to get into it later in the show, but the Chiefs are on this just emotional high, right? Coming off this overtime win where you come back, hit a field goal with 13 seconds to drive down the field in overtime. So at least the Bengals got that going for them where maybe they're the more level-headed team. But I wanted to piggyback off your question when you talk about the offensive line. we talk a lot about teams with rookie quarterbacks on rookie deals, right? So Joe Burrow doesn't have to get paid for a few years. Same with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So when you look at this offseason, do you think the Bengals will get aggressive with their picks, right? They've shown we could go to an AFC Championship game. Do you expect them to get aggressive with some of these draft picks, possibly trade them and go get a playmaker on defense, or even maybe use the trade market to upgrade the offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, if it's me, I'm calling a few guys. I'm calling Houston, see if Laramie Tunsil's available. Call
No
all
doubt.
these guys that are rebuilding, and they've got a guy maybe like 2 years left on his deal, and just try to put all your chips on the table. But I don't know if the Bengals do that. I just think they're a little bit conservative when it comes to this stuff. They like to build through the draft. They've changed a little bit over the past couple of years. You think of all the free agents they've brought in.
Yeah.
So maybe you do finally get one of these trades, or maybe they do pay up and go get a Brandon Scherr for a Teron Armstead. So maybe they finally do push for it, because I mean, in my lifetime, they've never been in this spot where they made an AFC Championship game.
Mm-hmm.
So that could also change things. Like before, you're making the wild card round a whole bunch and losing. And, it's hard to put all your chips on the table and mortgage your future when you haven't even won a playoff game.
Yeah.
Now that you've made the AFC Championship game, I think there's definitely a possibility they do it. If I was betting, I'd probably bet they'd probably just sign some, not the best, but maybe a next level guy, and then they draft another one for the offensive line and try to play it that way.
And
I could see it.
Not to be disrespectful to Andy Dalton, but Joe Burrow is just a different type of cool, a different type of swag that players see and they're like, I want to go play with him. And you look at the division too. The Steelers are going to be without Ben now. The Browns are in shambles, and the Ravens, while they still have Lamar, their defense was terrible this year. So you look at the team. Who do you want to play for in the AFC North? It's probably the Bengals for the first time in a long time.
Oh yeah, I think probably Chad was the last guy to try to bring guys in. He had the swagger to really bring some guys into the town. But yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, all these guys, you want to go play for them. I mean, that I would.
Yeah, for sure.
They're a cool
I would love
team.
to.
No
They're
doubt.
ascending. You get to protect one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Probably makes you look a little bit better than you might be, because he moves in the pocket really well, rather than going and playing for, I don't know, Sam Darnold. That's safe with you guys being Jets fans.
Man,
now that he's gone.
Man, the last time I felt your excitement as a fan was in 2010. That's how long it's been for the Jets.
Long, man.
2016 for me. It's not that long.
Since we are Jets fans, and I know that you're a very smart football mind, what are your thoughts on Zach Wilson?
Oh, I haven't really watched. I feel like he got hurt, right? And I didn't watch a single game, because in the Bengals game, congratulations on beating one of the four finalists.
That was the worst day of my life.
That was the Mike White game.
That was the Mike White. That was the day
White.
the narrative started. Oh my gosh, that was the worst day of my life.
That was something.
Yeah.
That was funny. That was
It
funny.
was amazing. The Bengals win that game, and maybe they beat the Bears and they win the 1 seed. Instead, they drop both those games and beat the Chiefs. So
Yeah,
it
for
all
real.
makes sense.
Same
I don't know why this just came into my head, but I have an honest to God question for you. Auden Tate, what is your opinion on him, Mike? Auden
We
Tate
have the
seems,
number one Auden Tate
he
fan
seems
here.
to be a fan favorite by my friend, my co-host, Joel. And before the season started, he believed that Auden Tate really should have a huge role in this offense. Do you feel like Auden Tate's being left out at all? Do you feel like it's justified where he is in the offense? Do you think that he could leave the Bengals and be successful elsewhere? I just want to gauge where you're at with Auden Tate right now.
I think he's better than the Bengals role that they've given him. He's not even playing now. I think they put him, I think he might be on IR, but yeah, I mean, it's not like he was getting very many snaps before that. Makes some circus catches. The only thing with him is that he's a little bit slow. Not even just a little bit. I think he runs like a 4.7, 4.8 type 40.
Move the tight end.
Yeah.
Over
They like to
Uzama
keep-
right now, who's been doing his absolute thing
Uzama's
for the Bengals
good.
right now. He
Yeah,
is really
so-
good.
I think good. I think if a team's got some speedsters to already threaten downfield, he'd be a great number 3 guy to just security blanket, kind of like a tight end, but he's huge. He makes circus catches, great hands, good blocker. I mean, it kind of sounds like he should be a tight end.
I mean, stop disrespecting Auden Tate. I know you guys want to disrespect
Hey,
Auden
man.
Tate right now.
Only
like Auden Tate.
only reason why I disrespect Auden Tate by any means
Is
is
the
because the Jamar Chase.
the Jamar Chase thing was ludicrous.
That's really all. It comes
All I
down
said
to.
was that if Jamar Chase keeps dropping balls at the rate he did
Come on
in the
now.
preseason games,
Come on now.
Auden Tate, I don't know, maybe he could do something, Put him out
300
there.
yards?
I don't want to quote him.
So thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it. You can plug yourself in right now, man. Just do anything you want that just so people can find you.
Yeah, on Twitter, that's the main thing. I'll probably promote just about everything on there. Bengals_Sands. Just find me on there and you'll find my writing and whatever else I'm doing.
Yeah, if you're into any sort of, you like to watch all 22, you want to learn more about football schemes, this is the guy.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on, man. We appreciate it, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Take care, man. Have a great night.